Napheesa Collier went on live TV, opened her mouth, and accidentally exposed the exact problem dragging the WNBA backward. She tried to downplay Caitlin Clark's impact while hyping alternative leagues and player-led visions, and it blew up instantly because the numbers don't care about her feelings. Here's what she implied: that the league doesn't need one superstar, that attention will come no matter what, and that Caitlin Clark isn't the engine people claim she is. That argument collapsed in real time, because the moment Clark entered the league, arenas that were half empty for years suddenly sold out. Road games turned into events. Ticket prices spiked. TV ratings jumped to record highs across national broadcasts. Merchandise sales followed, with Clark jerseys dominating sales charts league-wide. These aren't opinions. These are measurable outcomes. Before Clark, the WNBA struggled to crack mainstream relevance. After Clark, games started pulling casual sports fans who never watched women's basketball before. ESPN segments, social media clips everywhere, search interest exploding. That's not organic league growth. That's star power doing exactly what star power does in every successful sports league on earth. Now here's where Collier's take gets ugly. She's publicly tied to Unrivaled, a competing league with financial and leadership overlap involving the same players criticizing Clark. That's a conflict of interest, full stop. And when she criticizes the one player driving ticket sales, TV money, and sponsor attention, she's not speaking truth. She's protecting a business position. Unrivaled games draw tiny crowds, limited broadcast reach, minimal mainstream attention. Side by side, the contrast is brutal. Clark fills NBA-sized arenas. Unrivaled plays in gyms. Clark moves merchandise. Unrivaled barely trends. That's the reality Collier tried to dodge on live TV, and everyone watching could see it. This isn't about ego. It's about economics. Leagues grow when stars pull eyeballs, dollars, and advertisers. Attacking the star who finally cracked the ceiling doesn't make you principled. It makes you reckless. And when union-aligned voices undermine the league's biggest asset while benefiting from her popularity behind the scenes, fans notice. Collier didn't expose Caitlin Clark. She exposed the insecurity, the money trail, and the self-sabotage that keeps this league fighting itself instead of winning. Napheesa Collier isn't some random player giving a hot take. That's exactly why her words matter, and why the backlash hit hard. She's a top-tier WNBA star, an Olympic gold medalist, a former Rookie of the Year, and one of the most visible voices in league leadership circles. When she talks, media listens. When she speaks, it carries weight inside locker rooms, union meetings, and front offices. She's also a public face of player power in the WNBA. Collier is deeply tied to the Players Association mindset, the same group that negotiates revenue splits, scheduling, media strategy, and long-term league direction. That means when she goes on live TV and questions the value of Caitlin Clark's impact, it's not just commentary. It's signaling. It tells fans, sponsors, and executives where parts of league leadership stand. And that's the problem. Collier isn't speaking from the outside. She benefits directly from the attention Clark brings. Higher ratings mean stronger media deals. Bigger crowds mean more leverage in negotiations. Increased merchandise sales mean more sponsorship money flowing into the league ecosystem she profits from. Her salary, visibility, and brand value all rise when the league grows. So when she minimizes the one player driving that growth, it doesn't come off as honesty, it looks like denial. Her influence extends beyond the WNBA too. She's a co-founder and public promoter of Unrivaled, a new league positioned as an alternative vision for women's basketball. That's not neutral territory. That's competition. And when someone with a financial and reputational stake in a rival league publicly questions the value of the WNBA's biggest draw, the conflict of interest is obvious. This isn't about whether Collier is talented. She is. This isn't about jealousy narratives. That's lazy. This is about power. About who controls the narrative, who gets credit for growth, and who benefits when attention shifts away from a single superstar to collective messaging. The harsh truth is this: casual fans don't tune in for committees. They tune in for stars. Caitlin Clark pulled millions of new viewers into women's basketball. Napheesa Collier speaks for the establishment that existed before those viewers showed up. That's why her words landed wrong. And that's why people reacted fast. When someone with real influence downplays the league's biggest asset, it's not just bad optics. It's a strategic mistake, and fans aren't stupid enough to miss it. What Napheesa Collier actually said, and more importantly what she implied, is where everything went sideways. She didn't come out and directly say, Caitlin Clark doesn't matter. She did something smarter and more dangerous. She minimized Clark's impact by pushing the idea that no single player drives the WNBA, while subtly elevating Unrivaled as the future model. Her message was clear: if you're not pretending to be blind, the league doesn't need a Caitlin Clark. The attention would have come anyway. The growth is collective. And alternative, player-led leagues like Unrivaled represent a better direction than the so-called Clark hype. That claim collapses the moment you check reality. Before Clark entered the league, average attendance hovered near the bottom of major U.S. sports. National broadcasts struggled for relevance. Merchandise sales were flat. Then Clark shows up and suddenly road games sell out in minutes. Teams move games to larger arenas just to handle demand. Ticket resale prices explode. ESPN and ABC see their highest WNBA ratings in years, directly tied to Clark appearances. Jersey sales spike league-wide, led by Clark at the top. That's not coincidence. That's causation. Now compare that to Unrivaled. Small venues, limited crowds, minimal TV reach, almost no crossover buzz outside hardcore women's basketball circles. Yet Collier frames it as proof that the league doesn't need star-driven growth. That's not analysis. That's spin. By lumping Caitlin Clark into a system argument, Collier tried to strip her of individual value while positioning Unrivaled as a cleaner, purer alternative. But fans aren't buying that logic because they've seen this movie before. Every major sports league that breaks through mainstream culture does it on the back of stars. Jordan, LeBron, Brady, Curry. Clark fits that exact pattern. The real implication of Collier's claim is this: don't let one player dominate the spotlight, because it disrupts internal power structures. It shifts leverage. It changes who controls the narrative and where the money flows. That's why the backlash was immediate. Casual fans didn't hear nuance. They heard someone tied to a rival league downplaying the one athlete who finally made them care. And once that implication clicked, the argument was dead on arrival. You can argue philosophy all you want. The market already voted. And it voted for Caitlin Clark. The pushback didn't wait for Twitter. It happened instantly, live on air. You could see the shift the moment the claim left her mouth. The host stopped nodding. Analysts leaned back. The energy changed. That awkward pause? That was disbelief. Because everyone in that studio knew the numbers, and they knew exactly what she was trying to slide past the audience. When Collier suggested the league's growth wasn't tied to Caitlin Clark, the follow-up questions got sharper. Not emotional. Not hostile. Just factual. Attendance? Ratings? Ticket demand? Those questions hit because they're unavoidable. And instead of clean answers, you got vague deflection. It's bigger than one player. It's about the collective. That's what people say when the data is working against them. The real reaction exploded seconds later, off camera. Clips hit social media and the response was brutal. Fans weren't debating tone. They were posting screenshots of sold-out arenas, ratings charts, jersey sales rankings, before and after comparisons that made the argument look ridiculous. This wasn't die-hard WNBA loyalists fighting culture wars. These were casual fans saying, "I started watching because of Clark." Period. Even analysts who usually stay neutral weren't buying it. You could hear it in how they framed the discussion afterward. They didn't attack Collier personally. They just kept circling back to reality. Every time Clark plays, viewership spikes. Every time she's out, it drops. That pattern has been repeated all season. Ignoring it makes you look unserious. And here's the key part. Nobody rushed to defend Collier's point with evidence. Not one person countered with numbers showing Unrivaled outperforming WNBA games. Not one chart. Not one metric. Because they don't exist. Silence is an answer. Live TV exposes weak arguments fast. There's no editing. No damage control. No time to rewrite the narrative. Collier walked into that segment expecting agreement and walked out having her premise quietly dismantled in real time. The audience saw it. The internet finished it. And once that clip circulated, the takeaway was locked in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a bad take meeting public reality, and reality won immediately. Strip the opinions out and look only at the numbers, because this argument dies the moment data enters the room. Attendance first. When Caitlin Clark is on the schedule, arenas sell out. Teams don't just fill their normal buildings. They move games to larger venues to meet demand. That didn't happen consistently before her arrival. Road attendance spiked specifically for Clark games, not league nights, not rival matchups, not playoff pushes. One variable changes. The crowd follows. Now TV ratings. National broadcasts featuring Clark post the highest WNBA viewership numbers in years. Games without her don't come close. This isn't subtle. The difference is visible every week. When she plays, ratings jump. When she doesn't, they drop. That's a direct, repeatable pattern, not a one-off debut bump. Merchandise is even more obvious. Clark jerseys became top sellers immediately. Not just among rookies, league-wide. Retail rankings, online sales, team stores, all point to the same result. Fans are buying her name. That's discretionary spending. People don't do that unless they're emotionally invested enough to open their wallets. Media reach seals it. Clark dominates highlight coverage, sports talk segments, social media engagement, and search trends. Clips of her games outperform standard WNBA content by massive margins. Networks promote her games harder because they know the return. More clicks, more views, more ad value. That's how media decisions are actually made. Here's the most important number: new viewers. A huge percentage of the current audience openly says the same thing. They started watching women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark. Not because of league branding. Not because of long-term narratives. Because one player made the product worth their time. This is how sports economies work. Stars don't just play games. They activate markets. They pull in casual fans, sponsors, advertisers, and media money. Clark did that immediately, measurably, and repeatedly. So when someone says the league's growth isn't tied to her, they're not offering a different opinion. They're denying observable reality. The numbers are already recorded, and they all point in the same direction. Put Unrivaled next to the WNBA on a split screen and the argument collapses instantly. Start with crowd size. WNBA games featuring Caitlin Clark are packing real arenas. Thousands of fans. Sellouts. Overflow demand. Secondary ticket markets charging premiums. Now look at Unrivaled. Small venues. Limited seating. Sparse crowds that barely fill the camera frame. That's not intimate. That's low demand. If people were lining up, they'd be playing in bigger buildings. They're not because the audience isn't there. Viewership tells the same story. WNBA national broadcasts with Clark pull numbers Unrivaled can't touch. Cable and network ratings spike when she's on the schedule. Games without her fall back to baseline. Unrivaled doesn't even enter the mainstream ratings conversation. No regular national TV presence. No consistent viewership data being celebrated publicly. When leagues are winning, they brag about numbers. Silence usually means the opposite. Now exposure. Caitlin Clark games dominate sports media cycles. Highlights lead shows. Clips trend across platforms. Analysts debate her impact daily because attention follows interest. Unrivaled coverage? Niche articles. Limited clips. Minimal crossover into general sports talk. If casual fans aren't seeing it, it's because casual fans aren't watching it. Follow the money. Sponsors chase eyeballs. Networks chase ratings. Advertisers chase scale. That's why Clark's games get prime slots and heavy promotion. That's why Unrivaled relies on branding language instead of performance metrics. You don't sell vision when you have numbers. You sell numbers. Here's the harsh comparison. Clark brings in people who don't already care. Unrivaled mostly speaks to people who already do. One expands the market. The other recycles it. That difference is everything. So when voice is tied to Unrivaled downplay Clark's value, it's not because the data is unclear. It's because the comparison is uncomfortable. Side by side, one product looks like a growth engine. The other looks like a side project. Reality doesn't need spin. It just needs a scoreboard. And Unrivaled isn't winning on any measurable one. This is where the whole argument collapses under its own weight. Napheesa Collier is criticizing the very player whose presence is actively improving her paycheck, her exposure, and her leverage. That's not a hot take. That's a contradiction. Caitlin Clark drives higher attendance, which raises league revenue. Higher revenue strengthens media deals. Stronger media deals increase salary caps, sponsorship pools, and bargaining power for players. Collier benefits from all of that, whether she admits it or not. When Clark sells out arenas, every player on that floor gets seen by more people. When Clark boosts ratings, advertisers pay more. When advertisers pay more, the league has more money to distribute. That's how sports economics work. You don't get to cash the check and trash the engine at the same time. Yet that's exactly what happened. Collier downplayed Clark's importance while standing inside a system that is suddenly more valuable because Clark exists. That's not principled. That's convenient. It's easy to talk about collective growth when one individual is doing the heavy lifting and absorbing the pressure, criticism, and spotlight. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most players didn't suddenly become more marketable on their own. The market expanded because new fans showed up. Those fans showed up for Caitlin Clark. Not for union messaging. Not for internal politics. Not for alternative league concepts. They showed up for one name they recognized and one style of play they wanted to watch. And the contradiction gets worse when you factor in Unrivaled. Collier is tied to a competing product that benefits if attention shifts away from a single dominant WNBA star toward a player-led narrative. So she benefits twice. Once from Clark growing the WNBA, and again from criticizing Clark while promoting an alternative vision. That's not courage. That's hedging. If Clark wasn't driving growth, there'd be no surge to benefit from. No sold-out road games. No spike in media interest. No sudden urgency around women's basketball discourse. The timing alone exposes the truth. This wave didn't start randomly. It started when Clark stepped onto a WNBA court. Criticizing the star who expands the pie while quietly taking a bigger slice is a bad look. Fans aren't confused by it. They see the math. They see the incentives. And they're calling it what it is. You can argue philosophy all day. You can't escape the contradiction. This mindset doesn't protect the WNBA. It damages it. And that's the part defenders keep dodging. When influential players publicly minimize Caitlin Clark's impact, they don't sound enlightened. They sound hostile to growth. Casual fans don't parse internal politics. They hear one simple message: the league doesn't even appreciate the player who made them care. That's how you lose momentum fast. Sports leagues survive on narrative clarity. Stars attract eyeballs. Eyeballs attract money. Money lifts everyone. Undermining the star muddies the story and confuses the market. Fans start asking why they should invest time, money, and attention in a product that seems uncomfortable with success. Sponsors hesitate. Networks hedge. Growth slows. That's sabotage, even if it's unintentional. This isn't theoretical. The WNBA finally has leverage. Ratings are up. Attendance is up. Merchandise is moving. Media coverage is expanding beyond niche outlets. That leverage exists because one player broke through to the mainstream. Attacking that player weakens the league's negotiating position right when it should be strongest. And here's the part players don't want to admit. Collective bargaining power increases when the pie grows, not when attention fragments. If the league fails to capitalize on Clark's popularity because internal voices keep pushing anti-star rhetoric, the next media deal won't hit its ceiling. Lower ceilings mean fewer resources for everyone. Salaries, facilities, marketing, all of it. The sabotage angle gets clearer when alternative leagues enter the conversation. Shifting attention away from the WNBA's biggest draw towards side projects splits the audience instead of expanding it. That doesn't empower players. It weakens the main product that actually pays most of them. Fans aren't stupid. They understand incentives. When they see league insiders dismiss the star driving growth, it reads as insecurity and self-interest, not leadership. And once fans lose trust, they don't argue. They leave. The WNBA doesn't need purity tests or internal turf wars. It needs momentum. Caitlin Clark provides that. Anyone undermining her value isn't standing up for players. They're kneecapping the league at the exact moment it finally has a chance to win. The public sided with Caitlin Clark instantly, and the reason is simple. The numbers and visibility don't lie. Fans don't care about internal politics, conflicts of interest, or collective growth messaging. They care about what they see on the court and what they see off it. Clark delivers highlights, game-changing moments, and energy that the WNBA hasn't consistently offered before. Collier? Her criticisms came across as dismissive of the very player driving that excitement. Social media exploded the second the segment aired. Clips of Clark's record-breaking games, viral highlights, and packed arenas circulated faster than any talking point Collier tried to push. Fans compared what they were witnessing in real life to what was being said on TV and chose reality over spin. That's why the backlash was immediate and widespread. You don't get millions of fans engaged for nostalgic commentary or union politics. You get them because someone earns their attention, and Clark did that in spades. Search trends, Twitter polls, and engagement metrics all showed the same pattern. People were amplifying Clark content, mocking Collier's claims, and debating the absurdity of her argument. There was no gray area. Casual fans who discovered women's basketball through Clark weren't about to entertain critiques that undermined why they tuned in. Clark had created a tangible connection. Collier's words felt irrelevant to that experience. Even analysts, commentators, and journalists who typically remain neutral shifted. Their framing leaned heavily toward Clark's measurable impact, highlighting attendance, ratings, and merchandise sales. Fans saw those endorsements as validation of their own perspective. The narrative didn't require sentiment, it required proof, and Clark delivered it. Collier's messaging? It collapsed under that scrutiny. Ultimately, the perception shift wasn't about popularity contests or personalities. It was about accountability. Fans rewarded tangible contribution and penalized what looked like self-serving rhetoric. Clark won because she moved markets, captured attention, and proved her value in ways that could be counted, tracked, and seen. Collier lost because she spoke against that reality, and the audience noticed immediately. Here's the hard truth: this wasn't speaking truth. It was strategic self-damage. Collier didn't stumble into controversy by accident. She attacked the one player actually expanding the WNBA's audience while standing inside a system that depends on that expansion. That's not courage. That's negligence. That's undermining the very product that pays salaries, attracts sponsors, and legitimizes the league in the public eye. Everything about this segment screamed miscalculation. Attempting to minimize Caitlin Clark's impact while promoting alternative leagues with limited reach wasn't a bold take. It was a public display of poor judgment. The league's biggest star is pulling in crowds, ratings, and revenue. Anyone questioning her value in that context isn't offering analysis. They're weakening the WNBA in real time. The numbers expose the reality. Clark drives attendance, spikes TV ratings, dominates merchandise sales, and brings media coverage that Unrivaled can't touch. Criticizing her while benefiting from those gains is a contradiction. It's not advocacy, it's sabotage. Fans saw it, analysts saw it, and the backlash proved it. Collier's comments created a clear public perception. Insiders are willing to self-sabotage for ideological positioning, conflicts of interest, or personal alignment with rival ventures. That perception erodes trust in leadership, confuses casual fans, and risks slowing the very growth everyone claims to support. The final verdict? This segment didn't enlighten. It didn't analyze. It damaged credibility, reinforced hypocrisy, and publicly showcased a disconnect between leadership messaging and market reality. Caitlin Clark didn't need defending, numbers defended her. Collier just confirmed who is actually driving the WNBA forward and who's getting in the way. Fans, sponsors, and networks don't reward excuses. They reward results. And the results clearly side with Clark, leaving Collier's truth looking like a costly misstep.